Here we have some important PlayStation and Xbox topics as President Biden agrees to sign an executive order that will look into the shortage of parts necessary to complete PS5s and Xbox Series consoles. We also have some Bethesda news as Bethesda's sale to Microsoft could potentially be delayed by a class action lawsuit. We also have an in-depth analysis to look into the new trailer of Returnal. Additionally, we have more topics to discuss from Marvel's Avengers, Anthem 2, Cyberpunk, Kojima Productions, and some Hogwarts Legacy news. So before jumping into the topics, if you are new, subscribe to the channel and click the notification icon for knowing instant updates, more interesting and informative topics in the daily gaming world. Now let's jump in. COVID-19 has made it difficult for several industries to get their hands on the components necessary to run businesses. Among these companies are Sony and Microsoft, who are short on the semiconductors needed to complete their PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X consoles respectively. Because they're having trouble getting the necessary parts, Microsoft and Sony can't meet consumer demand for their consoles, meaning COVID-19 is in part behind the PS5 and Xbox Series shortages. As a result, Sony and Microsoft have joined forces with 15 other organizations including the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in writing a letter to U.S. President Joe Biden that asks for help. The letter emphasizes the problem everyone is facing by framing it as a matter of national security. The semiconductors enable the products and services that help keep the economy stable, and they happen to facilitate the solid-state lasers used to designate missile targets. Likely due to the latter problem, President Biden has decided to look into the matter. The president is expected to sign an executive order that will launch a 100-day investigation/review into semiconductor supply chains, along with several other areas, according to GameSpot. When exactly President Biden plans to execute the order remains to be seen, but hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. The letter was created and sent to Biden on February 18, so it has already been a week. It's probably important to note that even after Biden's order goes live, it will still take time for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X shortages to clear up. The planned review spans over 100 days, and during this time, the order should make some progress in getting the semiconductors flowing again, but it more than likely won't happen immediately, hence the rather long duration of the investigation. It's even possible that nothing will happen until the investigation is concluded. All that said, many gamers will probably find it comforting, if not humorous, to know that the US president is technically working on getting PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series game consoles into the hands of players. As far as PlayStation goes, the PlayStation CEO has also already declared the company was working hard to get the PS5 shortage crisis fixed, and there's no reason to think Microsoft isn't working toward the same end with its latest Xbox. While time may still be the solution to the problem, the amount could be a little less now. Up next we have the Bethesda news as Bethesda faces a class action lawsuit regarding Fallout 4 DLC that could have drastic effects on its upcoming acquisition by Microsoft. Season passes have become a staple of AAA games as DLC becomes more and more prevalent, so it isn't often that fans think of them as anything odd. Despite this, the Season Pass for Fallout 4 is proving to be a lot of trouble for Bethesda, and is now the center of a class action lawsuit against the video game development titan. The details of this lawsuit remain somewhat unclear, but it could well have an effect on the upcoming acquisition of Bethesda by Microsoft. That deal is set for $7.5 billion, so it's in Bethesda's best interest to get this sorted out in an amicable way. Fallout 4 released in 2015, and was met with mostly praise. The game was applauded as an accessible entry point into the franchise that still provided enough depth for longtime fans to enjoy. Along with it, fans could purchase a Season Pass, a bundle that promised buyers all the DLC ever released for the game for one price. In 2019, this promise returned to bite Bethesda in the back. Bethesda did release some standard DLC content, all of which was contained within the Season Pass, but it later moved on from DLC and started making what it called Creation Club content in 2017. This content was located in the same place that mods were, but was curated and often created by Bethesda itself. In order to gain access to this content, fans would have to pay Bethesda for it regardless of whether or not they had a season pass. This came to light in 2019 and Bethesda was sued for false advertising. This case is nothing new, but details on its proceedings have been scarce over the last year and a half. Xlaw Group filed a lawsuit against Bethesda in July 2019 regarding how it sold the Fallout 4 Season Pass, and, while in the discovery phase, could seek damages of around $1 billion. Lawyers have already filed papers to obtain more information, and may even block the sale of Bethesda in case the deal means it is able to shift assets to a new legal entity, thus shielding itself from liability. Speaking with GamesBeat, layers involved in the case said, "What we're going to try and do is go in and ask a judge to stop the sale between Microsoft and Bethesda to preserve the assets. And it's known as a motion for preliminary injunction." As mentioned, the focus of the lawsuit is on the Fallout 4 Season Pass, and notes that Bethesda advertised it as giving players who purchase it all of the Fallout 4 DLC we ever do for just $30. As such, the Xlaw Group attorneys Filippo Marchino and Thomas Gray have argued that this content is DLC and therefore should be eligible for Season Pass holders. They said that it clearly is downloadable content. They try to slap a sticker on it and call it Creation Club content to remove it from the purview of the people that had already bought the Season Pass. But that's artificial in nature. And it's part of the fraud. Bethesda is therefore accused of making amateur legal mistakes, such as failing to include an end-user license agreement with Fallout 4, which could have provided details on what players were entitled to. The studio has been charged with breach of contract, unjust enrichment, deceit or fraud, fraudulent concealment, negligent misrepresentation, tort arising out of breach of contract, and more. It remains to be seen whether or not this will affect Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda, but it seems likely that it wouldn't want to acquire a company currently going through a class action lawsuit. The core of the argument revolves around what is considered DLC and what isn't. Bethesda claims that Creation Club content isn't DLC, while the plaintiff claims that the name is the only thing that distinguishes the two. What's even more bizarre is that some lawyers are saying that Bethesda made a lot of legal mistakes. In the Season Pass, there's no fine print explaining what a DLC is or stating that Creation Club content isn't included, and there's also no end-user agreement. Regardless of how the lawsuit plays out, it will be interesting to see how it affects the Microsoft-Bethesda acquisition. And it will be also interesting to see PlayStation's move on Bethesda and its games.
Tours were still going on when Freeze came through.
Those poor people. They didn't stand a chance.
Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics detail a list of new and improved features comic in the upcoming Marvel's Avengers Next Gen update. Marvel's Avengers may not have had the post-launch success that it had originally planned. That doesn't mean that Crystal Dynamics isn't still working hard on the game. The Hawkeye update release date was confirmed a week ago, in one recent example. And now an even bigger edition is being detailed. Square Enix is ready to share what Crystal Dynamics has put together for Marvel's Avengers Next Gen update. The PS5 and Xbox Series X and S upgrades will be available starting March 18th. Square Enix's detailing of the Marvel's Avengers Next Gen updates comes in the form of handy charts. The charts compare the current Marvel's Avengers game running on next-gen hardware to the full next-gen update. The charts list various things that the games share across platforms, like cross-gen matchmaking and cross-gen save file importing, as well as key differences. One funny example is that faster load times is listed for pre-patch Marvel's Avengers, while significantly faster load times is listed for post-patch. As for the listed improvements coming to both PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, there are quite a few. The chart references the update offering higher resolution textures, improved heroics and armor destruction, stochastic screen space reflections, contact-aware sharpening, higher resolution translucency, improved ambient occlusion, and improved texturing. Suffice to say, there is a diverse range of visual improvements coming with the next-gen updates. But there are also some notable differences between the PS5's improvements and the Xbox Series X and S improvements. Two less notable differences are that the PS5 will receive spatial audio and haptic feedback in the update, features the Xbox Series X and S don't support. More notable is that the PS5 will apparently receive both a high-performance mode and a 4K mode, while the Xbox Series X and S will get a single resolution-focused mode. The key difference being that the PS5 exclusive mode offers 60 frames per second with a lower resolution, an option Xbox gamers won't have. Regardless of the differences between the two platforms, both the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S updates for Marvel's Avengers sound like welcome offerings. Those still playing Marvel's Avengers on next-gen systems will have no reason not to take advantage of the free gift from Crystal Dynamics. The one looming negative of the situation is the question regarding how much support Square Enix plans to offer for Marvel's Avengers. Given live service games' tendency to cancel plans for post-launch support in recent years, many Marvel's Avengers fans are likely wary. After all, much of Marvel's Avengers post-launch plans have already been significantly delayed. Hopefully, Square Enix will clarify the situation going forward following the March 18th next-gen update's release.
Is far closer than we'd like.
In the future, we get attacked by a warrior race called the Kree.
When will this Kree invasion take place, Clint?
Oh no.
Up next we have the Anthem news as the troubled history of Anthem is coming to an end, as BioWare reveals that Anthem 2.0 is officially cancelled in favor of focusing on other titles. It's no secret that Anthem had something of a troubled launch, but fans of the game placed all their hope in the elusive Anthem 2.0. Waiting for any sort of news on this has been an adventure in and of itself, but now the project is officially cancelled. This news comes directly from Christian Daly, the head of the Anthem reboot project, so there's no denying its legitimacy. In summary, Daly explains that the team that was working on Anthem will now be dedicating its resources towards other things like Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and Star Wars: The Old Republic. Anthem released on February 22 of 2019, and it just recently celebrated its 2-year anniversary. This occasion likely prompted both BioWare and EA to re-evaluate its plans for Anthem and figure out what the best way forward was. In his statement, Daly gives a little bit more insight on what went into the decision to cancel Anthem 2.0. In his message, Daly gives two main reasons for why development on Anthem 2.0 is no longer happening. The first reason likely won't surprise anyone, as it relates back to the COVID-19 pandemic. Daly says outright that BioWare's plans for 2020 and beyond have been directly impacted by the pandemic, and that it simply isn't possible to do all the things it had intended to without putting undue stress on its workers. That last part is particularly sensible, as gamers have recently rallied against crunch culture and the exploitation of video game developers. Beyond this, Daly also explains that BioWare as a team needs to laser focus its efforts into creating the best Dragon Age and Mass Effect games that it can. These titles are obviously more established among fans than Anthem is, so it makes sense from a business perspective to take this approach. Interestingly, he also mentions Star Wars: The Old Republic, reassuring fans that the online game will continue to receive quality updates and new content. To close out, Daly explains that this is upsetting for him and the team that worked on Anthem 2.0 as well, but says he is still proud of all the work they did. Fans had been speculating about how much of a chance Anthem 2.0 really had, and now the answer to that is clear. Though this is certainly disappointing for fans of the game, and those that have followed its development closely, it's nice of BioWare to give those fans some closure by revealing that the project was cancelled instead of leaving fans guessing. As we move forward, we have another Cyberpunk 2077 news, as after initially planning Cyberpunk 2077's next major patch for this month, CD Projekt has made the decision to delay it due to the recent cyber attack. After Cyberpunk 2077 finally released in December, one would hope that post-launch updates and such wouldn't be subjected to the same continuous delays, though some will say that the game should have been delayed again considering the state of its launch, including some of its own developers. Unfortunately, that has not been the case, as CD Projekt has decided to delay the game's second major patch. While it has been updating Cyberpunk 2077 with several smaller hotfixes since it launched, CD Projekt intended to have 2 major patches release within the first couple of months of 2021, according to its own roadmap. The first patch came out without much of a hitch, but the second, patch 1.2, will be missing its intended February release, and instead become available in the second half of March. As for the reason why, CD Projekt points to the recent cyber attack it suffered, where a hacker or hackers stole the source codes for several games, including Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3, and demanded ransom, threatening to sell them online if their demands weren't met. CD Projekt didn't explain much further than that, only saying that between the attack on the studio's IT infrastructure and the scope of the update itself, it believes it needs additional time to ensure it lives up to player expectations. If you want to know the full cyber attack details, check out my video about the whole situation. So, while this news is no doubt frustrating for some players, it's somewhat nice to hear that CD Projekt is willing to delay it anyway. Despite delaying Cyberpunk 2077 several times, the studio was heavily criticized for enforcing crunch on developers, especially after it vowed not to do that. Plus, it already decided to delay the planned DLC as well so it could focus on improving and fixing the base game. CD Projekt is likely trying to do everything it can to regain trust and improve its reputation after the fallout of Cyberpunk 2077's release. Not only did it and the game become easy targets of mockery and criticism from the general public and media outlets, but it also led to the game being delisted from the PlayStation Store. At the time of writing, it still hasn't come back, and CD Projekt offering refunds to disgruntled customers. It also caused stocks in the company to drop, which in turn led to its own investors filing lawsuits against it. All in all, it's been an undeniably disastrous time for the company, and this new legacy may continue to haunt it for many years to come. Reset Era takes big steps in response to the recent controversy surrounding Harry Potter game Hogwarts Legacy's lead designer Troy Levitt. Despite not having released yet Hogwarts Legacy, the latest game in the Harry Potter series has attracted its fair share of controversy. Controversy that has started to affect who wants to be associated with the game. From the moment it was announced, there have been people who were unhappy with Hogwarts Legacy and its association with J.K. Rowling. While the developers have confirmed that Rowling is not going to have any input on the content of the game, there are a lot of people who still don't want to support it because J.K. Rowling has expressed anti-transgender viewpoints on her Twitter account. Even if she's not making the game, they don't want to support her views by buying it and giving her money. These feelings only got more intense last week as Twitter user Liam Robertson uncovered that the Hogwarts Legacy lead designer Troy Levitt had uploaded several videos to his YouTube account in the past supporting Gamergate and other far-right causes. In response to this new information, gaming forum Reset Era has banned all promotional discussion of the game. This comes as the first time the forum has ever had a blanket ban on threads relating to a specific game. According to the moderator who posted the announcement, the ban covers any trailers, official announcement, hype threads, or fluff, allowing exceptions only for major new developments about the controversy. He also left the possibility that an official thread might be posted for the game closer to launch in case minority members want a space to discuss the game's contents where they will not be shouted down by bigots. There's a reason so many once dedicated fans are leaving Harry Potter behind and refusing to support Hogwarts Legacy. They are passionate about not supporting bigots, harassers, and those who support them. Many transgender members of the forum and their allies are undoubtedly happy about this ban, and that the moderators have said loud and clear that bigots have no place on their platform. On the other hand, there is a good reason that some other people don't care what the developers or J.K. Rowling believe. Levitt even claims that Warner Bros. Interactive does not care about his old videos. Of course, Levitt and Rowling are not the only ones associated with the Harry Potter franchise. There are undoubtedly people on the Hogwarts Legacy development staff who care deeply about transgender issues and supporting transgender individuals. Before jumping into final topic, we have an interesting news of Xbox and Phil Spencer as earlier today, the second day of Microsoft's AI and Gaming Research Summit kicked off, a two-day conference event discussing the future of AI and machine learning in video games. During the conference, the executive vice president Phil Spencer was seen with a figurine of Ledens on his shelf. Ladens is the mascot of Kojima Productions, Hideo Kojima's own studio following his breakup with Konami. Over the past several years, larger companies have taken the practice of partnering with developers to release exclusive content under their brand. Sony's acquisition of Insomniac Games in 2019 followed by Microsoft purchasing Bethesda in 2020 were examples of some major power moves intending to build on the foundation of their respective companies. Following the announcement of the surprise reboot of Perfect Dark, led by in-house developer The Initiative, all eyes are currently on Microsoft as many gamers await the next chapter in the Microsoft saga. Some gamers, however, may be looking a bit too much into specific details, mistaking them for official teasers and announcements. While innocuous by itself, as it is nothing more than a figure on a shelf, the Ladens figure didn't stop gamers from going on Twitter to identify the rest of Spencer's shelf, with some making a tongue-in-cheek reference towards the absurdity. In the Twitter thread, another user noticed a copy of Deck 9's Life is Strange before the storm on Spencer's shelf, further adding to the joke that Microsoft is in talks with acquiring the many developers whose products are featured on his shelf. Kojima Productions was created by Hideo Kojima in 2015 following his split from longtime developer Konami. In 2019, Kojima Productions released Death Stranding, built upon the groundwork of the cancelled title Silent Hills using the likeliness and voice of actor Norman Reedus. Since its release, the latest rumor involving Death Stranding is talks of an extended version releasing on the PS4 and PS5. This extended release would expand on the story, tying up loose ends and offer a streamlined experience. Neither Kojima Productions nor Sony had confirmed this information. With the rumor that Microsoft is looking towards making a blockbuster purchase on the level of their Bethesda acquisition, Microsoft potentially buying a company such as Kojima Productions isn't something that is entirely off the table. The absurdity of such a claim existing solely from a figurine on a desk, however, gave the internet something to jest about. And finally we are here as PS5 exclusive Returnal gets new trailer which highlights planet Atropos. We have some new details to uncover on this one. Players looking forward to the PlayStation 5 exclusive Returnal can check out a new video going over some of the locations in Housemarque's title. We are familiar with some of the studio's popular, like the positively reviewed Resogun and Alienation. These titles combine visceral and colorful graphics with arcade gameplay at a breakneck speed. While those entries were of a smaller scale, the team is looking to evolve its signature style for the next generation PlayStation. While story details are scarce, Returnal takes players into a constantly changing sci-fi world. The trailer takes a deep dive into some of the locations found on the main planet, Atropos. After crash landing on the mysterious world, the main character Celine must search for a way to escape. As shown in the video, this will be difficult due to the constantly changing landscapes after every instant respawn on PS5. The first locale shown is the overgrown ruins which players will have seen in the promotional material so far. In the dark, twisted forest exists the remains of a civilization, but this quickly changes to swamp with a completely different look. Celine's home even appears here, implying a deeper truth to uncover. Afterwards, the character makes her way to the next stop, which is the derelict citadel. As Celine heads towards a tower ahead, players can see the sleek, but decaying structures of this abandoned city. While progressing deeper into the world of Atropos, fans will be able to learn about the beings that existed here. Next up is the Crimson Wastes, which is a mountainous desert that can easily flip to snowy, frozen tundra. From the trailer, the game has 6 regions with 3 of them currently set as unknown biomes. It certainly seems like Housemarque is trying to up its game for this new entry. While previous titles also had a variety of designs, this will be the first time dealing with a shooter that has an emphasis on narrative. Switching from top-down to third-person invites a whole different style of combat gameplay in Returnal. The regions shown off in this trailer at least look to be dense and full of secrets, something that should engage players besides the gameplay. Though, this new reveal may not be enough to convince those on the fence. Most of Housemarque's catalog involve modest titles, so these ambitious aspects are untested from the developer. While the ever-changing world looks solid, some of the best roguelikes out already take advantage of procedural generation to keep a playthrough interesting. Nevertheless, those looking forward to more classic action from Housemarque should be pumped for Celine's adventure on Atropos, as Returnal will launch as a PlayStation 5 exclusive on April 30th. And that's all for the video, guys. If you are interested, give it a like and share the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about the new Returnal trailer and other topics too. And until then, from SMPV, it's goodbye.
Scout log. 30 minutes since last crash. This forest contains extensive ruins of a xenotype civilization. Ancient walls, foundations, and statues. The forest is a swamp now. That can't be here. This must be the city created by the sentients. Scans show that the broadcast originates from the tower. This technology seems to indicate the designers were part of a hive mind. I've passed through the teleportation gate into a sprawling desert, detecting another strange energy from the mountain's summit, ascending towards destination. These pillars affect the severed so profoundly. This isn't... No, it is the same coordinates as the desert. I recognize the mountaintop, but where are the rune structures and... Helios? This has changed. Everything has changed.
PlayStation